Meeting minutes are approved. Um, I will hand things over to you, President Stokes. Thank you for being here.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good to see you. Been a busy time for everyone. I appreciate that so many of you are here and the work that you're doing. Um, I know that we want to leave time for questions. I know that it appears from the agenda that we'll go back to a previous format, which is I'll make a few remarks and then the provost, and then we'll have questions to both of us. And I want to be sure that we leave the time for that. I'm hoping that you've seen the communication that I sent out to the campus last week. Um, Acknowledging a lot of what is going on and recognizing that, we're having to, put together groups to work on all of this, that there is no question about the kind of uncertainty and concern that is creating across our campus and in our communities. I think that this is hitting higher education pretty hard across the country, but it's beyond a lot of what's of concern is hitting well beyond higher education. But I want to recognize that um, there are many people affected and many people affected in multiple ways. And I think that we have a lot to navigate. I did address this some. I did my regular State of the University address on Friday. Um, if you look at it online, my apologies for wearing a black suit. I know I'm being a little funny, but if you look at it, if you go to see it, you'll see that um, they forgot to tell me not to wear a black suit, and the background is black. So if you're watching it online, I look like just a talking head with a white blouse kind of in the middle. Um, Hopefully you can ignore that part of it because it is kind of strange looking. Multiple people have pointed it out to me, and I'm hoping you can hear what I say and hear the words and what's behind those words and ignore the floating head look. Um, but um, but I think that that State of the University address goes over a lot of the really great things that have happened in the last year and looks forward some. But I acknowledge, that we are facing uncertain times and that we have a lot to navigate. And so just want you to know that we are paying attention. And I know that we always need to more effectively communicate and looking for ways to do that more effectively. Hopefully, today will provide you an opportunity to ask questions of the provost and me. It's really interesting to be dealing with so many things at the federal level at the same time that we're really in the midst of a legislative session that is going full speed as well. Um, the session is in place until March 22nd. The last day for bills to drop was in fact last Thursday, but in fact, occasionally bills that they call dummy bills sit there for something to be dropped in. So we're always looking for new things to emerge. It is an interesting session. We're seeing support for a lot of our initiatives and really having to do some work on others. Some of the legislation that we're seeing is tied to our healthcare system, or it's tied to healthcare in general in the state. So a lot that our government relations team is having to monitor. And so that is keeping people very busy as well. And there are people at the state level asking questions, though, about what's happening at the federal level and its impact on higher education. So I think, you'll be, I hope you realize that there are a lot of people asking, what can the state do to help as we navigate what is actually happening here at the federal level and its impact on higher education and on our university and the people in our communities. Um, I think there'll be a whole lot more to report at the next Faculty Senate meeting. We'll know a lot more about where we've landed with regard to the legislature at that point. I also want to mention that I recently signed a memorandum, an MOU with the mayor related to exploration of how we might partner to help revitalize downtown. And I just want to make sure that everyone is aware that we're not moving the School of Law downtown Albuquerque. That has been floated for a long time, for more than a decade. I think it's been the desire to see, hey, the School of Law should move downtown. There are lots of courthouses downtown. And I say, well, there's a Court of Appeals right next door. So are you going to move all the courthouses downtown? But really, the real interest on the part of the city is finding ways to bring more people downtown. And so we're just agreed to explore what we could do to be part of a solution for downtown. You know, we already have Rainforest there. We have a residence hall downtown with Rainforest. But this is really a little closer to the Civic Plaza. And there's a lot more to be explored, a lot more conversations to go on. My assurance to you is that there is no deal on the table or even any deal in the background that says we are somehow moving our School of Law downtown. That is what Arizona State did. Many of us visited Phoenix to see how Arizona State partnered with the state with Phoenix to revitalize their city starting about 20 years ago. Devil's in the details, and resources matter. And so there's much to be talked about and figured out there. But I know it was in the paper, and I wanted to acknowledge it, but also address directly that rumor that just keeps coming in front of us about the School of Law. On a positive note, we hosted our annual UNM Big Give, and it was a 24-hour fundraiser across the campus. There was a lot of money raised in that, and a lot of it went to individual parts of the university. So thank you to those who were able to participate in that. I do want to encourage everyone to complete the campus mobility survey. It is designed to help us figure out how to make the campus a safer place for navigation for those who are walking or cycling or those with mobility challenges. So that survey is open till the 10th of March. And you know, I've mentioned it every year to the Senate. I know faculty sometimes aren't aware of all the activities that happen on campus that involve our students. Some of you are, but not those, you know, student activities, big things. But we are celebrating the 136th birthday of the university on Friday in the sub around 11:30 noon. And that's when you see those pictures in the sub with everybody dressed with the UNM t-shirts. It's a different t-shirt every year. But I'm really proud that our students celebrate the birthday of a university like ours. And so it's a moment of celebration. I'm sure I could say a whole lot more, but with that, I think I'll just turn it over to the provost for his remarks, and then we'll look forward to your questions.
Thanks, and thanks everyone for your time as always and for your service. I thought that I would focus my comments on the changing landscape that's being effectuated by various actions at the federal government level. As you probably know, there's been a really, over the last 3-4 weeks or so, a flurry of federal actions that have impacts or potential impacts on universities and on the University of New Mexico. These include about 70 executive orders, of which a handful, 10, 15 or so, have some direct impact on universities. Some memos issued by the Office of Management and Budget, at least one Dear Colleague letter from the Department of Education, but also a set of individual actions within agencies, particularly granting agencies, that are having impacts on us. And so I'm not going to go through all 70 executive orders or any of the rest, but I do want to talk about kind of hitting where we see some of the major areas, the major buckets of concern for us. One is around immigration issues and the status of students and staff on our campus who may be undocumented or documented. Also, what may the potential impacts on international students and also potentially employees who are here on various kinds of visas. We see issues around inclusive excellence and DEI. We see issues around research. We see issues around patient care, and we see issues around employment. And so we've asked some small groups of folks to look at all of these federal actions through each of those lenses in order to simply try and identify where do these various federal actions potentially impact us. That's a very much a changing landscape, and different pieces of this are moving at different speeds. And so I think that's an important recognition. And so, for example, the fastest moving piece of this is probably in the research arena, with initially the federal government stopping the payment of all funds to institutions in a kind of a slow, haphazard way. And then through court action, that was at least undone through a temporary restraining order. Related to that, though, there's been clear slowdowns in certain funding agencies in supplying, in reviewing new grants, in issuing notices of award for grants that have been reviewed. And in a few cases, some stop work orders on some very specific grants. We've had 17 stop work orders, sorry, 2 of which have been rescinded. And so all of those things are concerning. And on top of that, the National Institutes of Health decided to change the rate at which indirect costs are charged on modified direct costs from 52.5% to 15%. The impact of that on UNM would have been something on the order of $20 to $23 million a year. So a significant impact in indirect cost recovery for the institution. We provided a declaration to the Attorney General of New Mexico related to that matter. Attorney generals in 22 states sued in federal court. There is now a temporary restraining order against that action on the part of NIH. One reason that's particularly important is if NIH went to a 15% indirect cost rate, most other federal agencies would as well. So the impact would actually be bigger than just on NIH. Again, that's now currently stayed by a temporary restraining order. It's for that reason, by the way, that there's been so much happening in research so fast. It's for that reason that we decided to have the VPRs set up a website and do fairly rapid communications, because those things were happening kind of in real time. The most significant of those are currently paused by various judicial actions, but it is still the case that NIH and some other federal agencies are being purposefully slow to review new grants or to award new grants. So we do still have concerns of that impact. An area that caused tremendous concern, I know, was the Valentine's Day Dear Colleague letter, which came out from the Office of Civil Rights in the Department of Education. Read in its broadest way, this Dear Colleague letter was meant to chill activities in diversity, equity, and inclusion based on various legal claims. And so that Dear Colleague letter is based on a set of executive orders. Many of the parts of those executive orders are now under an injunction, a temporary injunction to make them ineffective. And so much of that Dear Colleague letter is implicated in a current injunction. And all of this stuff is happening kind of, day to day to day. And so the very rapid changes. Looking at the DEI work, I think it's important for us to kind of say what is our position. We don't find anything in the Dear Colleague letter that's particularly actionable. And so it is our position that we're not doing anything different. So DEI programs at UNM are a critical part of who we are, critical part of what we do. We're continuing to do them. We're not, as an institution, asking anyone to stop those activities, to rename those activities, or anything of that sort. That doesn't mean that individual groups might not make some of those kinds of decisions. We don't necessarily want to say don't do that. We know that some folks are uncomfortable having their names online as associated with those. And so some folks have taken their names offline and so on. But as an institution, we're not changing our work relating to DEI in reaction to that Dear Colleague letter. What we've decided overall in all of these federal actions is we will work with specific actionable events from the federal government. And if we need to respond to those events, we will determine how to respond to those events when they actually happen. We really don't want to preemptively comply with something that is vague or poorly defined. We don't want to inject churn into our own activities based on confusing messages from the federal government. And so our fundamental principle has really become, when we see something clearly actionable, we'll respond to that. NIH changing the indirect cost is a good example of that. And they proposed to change the indirect cost on a Friday night. By Sunday, we had provided our declaration to the Attorney General to support him in being part of a legal action to stay that, which is what's happened. So I do want to say that that's our there's so much stuff going on, but that's really our operating principle. Don't react unless it's specific and really actionable, and then act. In patient care, we've determined that the issues that might affect us in patient care are not actionable for us. These relate to gender affirming care and the use of federal government dollars in certain reproductive health care. Those things don't apply to us for various reasons, and so we're continuing to provide those kinds of healthcare services. Another actionable place is actually an employment law. And so the current administration has rescinded an executive order from 1965 that related to affirmative action that is legally within the permissibility or within the bounds for the administration to do. And so we are looking at our policies as they relate to affirmative action specifically, and looking at what changes in policies we may need to make owing to the removal of that 1965 executive order on affirmative action. So again, something concrete and specific, we'll respond to it. These other orders or statements that are less specific, we're not interested in responding to. One item related to research and DEI that I think is worth saying. So one, we're not asking anybody to not attend conferences about DEI. If you're doing that work and are planning to attend a conference, we hope that you will. We're not asking folks to stop doing work on grants that are related to DEI. That work should go on unless the funding agency itself says stop, which again has happened in only a very small number of cases. The other thing that we're really also looking at is with this current slowdown in issuance of new awards, we're concerned about, for faculty and disciplines where federal funding is important for their scholarship and career progression, we're concerned about how we will support those faculty. It's a little early to make a determination because we don't yet have clarity about is this a short-term slowdown or is this a longer-term change in the way that federal funding may flow. But we are thinking about a tool that we used during COVID, which is automatically extending tenure clocks. Again, we haven't decided to do that, but that's sort of one of the tools that we have in the toolbox that we're at least thinking about as we get greater clarity. The other thing that we've done realm of federal funding that might be stopped or delayed is for students who are supported on grants that receive a stop work order or that don't receive their annual continuation. We've provided a pot of funds to support those students through at least the end of May. So that we know that we don't disrupt students in the short term as we're trying to see where all of this is going in the long term. So that's kind of the big picture, and we're happy to jump in and either the president or I answer questions.
Thank you, President Stokes. Thank you, Provost Holloway. Senators, if you can do me a favor, and if you scroll down and see React, click on React and raise your hand. It's easier for us to see who's in line to ask a question.
And if I could jump in, Chris, I just see a couple questions and comments in the chat. So first, Liz Hutchison is pointing to a letter that was prepared by a group of law professors and has been making the rounds. We've seen that. Several of the arguments in that letter are in fact arguments that have been used in the court case that has led to the temporary injunction against several of the executive orders relating to DEI. And I have no idea if the legal team used that letter or if these are legal arguments that are apparent to multiple teams of counsel. But in any event, it is a helpful letter from those law faculty if you want to see it. And it is the same kinds of arguments that have been used in court. The second question about supporting folks on grants who receive stop work orders. At the moment, we're doing that for students. That's the group that we know has been immediately affected. As we see other cases, we'll see what it is that we can do in those cases as well. Again, we've only received 17 stop work orders. 2 of those have been rescinded. So it's not a huge number at this point that where there are actual stop work orders. And then
Natalie.
I see Natalie has her hand up.
Yeah, just a follow up on that. So I'm really happy to hear that we're protecting the trainees. I would also be concerned for my research faculty colleagues who are on primarily soft money.
Yeah, absolutely. Research faculty, also postdocs, another group of significant concern. And I think one of the tricky things here is for folks who are on soft money, there's a current churn in the funding pipeline. We hate to lose those talented people over what may be a temporary churn in the funding pipeline. A bigger concern will be what does the world look like in a year? And that, I don't have any answers for that, but we really do recognize the short-term impact on folks could be huge. And so to the extent that we can, we really want to avoid that. It's unkind to those people, and it's a loss of talent for the institution. Other questions, comments? Let me address I see Natalie has her hand up, but then I was going to address another issue, but go ahead, Natalie.
So one thing I have thought about is basically, would there be a mechanism to donate my professional funds to a fund to keep faculty, like research faculty and postdocs afloat?
I'll flag that with the VPRs. It's a very generous offer. I hope we don't have to go there. But let me share that with the VPRs. I wanted to say a little bit about some of the immigration issues. I've had feedback from Chris, who I know has surveyed you, and I've had feedback from other places as well that concern, especially for our students on campus, has been a significant one for students who may be undocumented or documented, or even students who, for some reason, match some racial profiling. So what I can say is that so far, there have been no enforcement actions on campus or in the hospital. I know there have been rumors to the effect that there have, but there have not been. We have, through UNMPD, been in touch with ICE. They state that that's not their intention. Furthermore, their practice, and they have confirmed from all federal law enforcement agencies, if they come on campus, they contact UNMPD first. So we always know that something is happening. And so this is not to say that it's not a concern. It is a concern. People's fears are real, but it's not something that's happening at this point. I think it's important for folks to know that yes, we absolutely recognize the concern, but so far this is not one of the immediate impacts of the federal actions. And I think President Stokes was trying to jump in.
No, I was just nodding my agreement with that. There have been rumors to the contrary, but it is not happening. So.
There's a note from Natalie about the Las Cruces public school bus. So there was an incident in the southern part of the state at one of the border checkpoints where Border Patrol boarded a bus carrying high school students. The bus was unmarked. It was not marked Las Cruces schools. But that incident happened a couple of days ago, and you can look in the either in the newspapers or in the TV news for more details on it. But that did happen. The bus, however, did not say Las Cruces schools on it. It was just a generic kind of a bus.
I do see the other question about whether we're exploring innovative ways to attract funding from other sectors, basically, other than the federal government. And we are, in fact, actively doing that and ramping up our efforts to, it's the time to do it anyway. And certainly, as noted here, yeah, it's increasingly important for us to do that.
Yeah, and in fact, if you look over the last 10 years or so, funding for research from non-federal sources is growing faster than funding for research from federal sources. So the rate of growth is actually not in the federal arena, it's in the private arena. It is a different system to tap into those funds, and the industrial support tends to work on a time scale that is unfamiliar to us in the academy. Start now and be done in 3 months, not start in 6 months and be done in 3 years. So very much worth doing, and definitely a challenge. There's a question about ICE on campus and UNMPD's role. So we heard from UNMPD about this recently. It is not their purview to enforce federal laws. That's not what they do. The question is, do they refer to UNM leadership versus someone else? I think the answer is yes. They are responsible to the administration of the university, not to an outside law enforcement agency. And again, they've been very clear that their purview is not the enforcement of federal laws.
Provost Holloway, let me interrupt for a second. First, I just have a comment and a question that was texted to me. First, this was something I was going to give in my report, but I just wanted to remind senators, and please be sending out this information to your colleagues in your departments and your networks. We have a number of Know Your Rights trainings happening on campus and off campus. And right now, I personally believe that attending one of those Know Your Rights trainings is one of the best things you can do to support our undocumented and documented UNM community and larger community. Those are facilitated by the New Mexico Dream Team. We invited immigration lawyer Rebecca Kitson to be there in support. We had 42 participants show up last night. We'll have more coming forward. And also, please note, you've seen me. I've sent these trainings out in email, fax, and email listserv, and I'll continue to do so. But those Know Your Rights trainings are maybe an hour and a half. There's one that's coming up that'll be online, and there are also 2 Dream Zone trainings that will be facilitated by the New Mexico Dream Team. And those are more focused on, part of it is know your rights, and meaning not only so that undocumented and documented people know what their rights are, but also so that we as allies know how to respond. But those Dream Zone trainings, also there's a anti-racist component in them, and they're to help faculty, staff, students avoid microaggressions, but also how to support our documented and undocumented students on campus. Those are 8 hours long. Right now, there's one scheduled for March and one for April. They are 2 hours per day over 4 days within a week, and you can sign up for those via Learning Central. If you just log into your Learning Central and search Dream Zone, you should be able to find it. And seats are limited, so I would recommend doing it sooner rather than later. I can't remember what, oh, yes. And the question that was posed to me via text, are there federal employees at UNM, and are there any initiatives to hire or are there any initiatives to hire the fired federal employees?
So let me take that up in a couple of pieces on that. So there are not, of course, federal employees at UNM who work for UNM. There are a few places where there are federal employees who have space available on campus. The Forest Service has some space on campus, for example, or the National Parks Department. Our biggest intersection with folks who are effectively federal employees is actually with SIPI, the Southwest Indian Polytechnic Institute. They've had some significant employment actions, some firing of about 20 folks last week. We reached out to SIPI to offer any kind of support that we can provide. And so they know that we stand ready to help. They felt that they were in a okay position at the moment. There isn't an initiative to hire federal employees, but there are, in fact, some searches going on in which I know we're strategically thinking about some federal employees who are becoming available or are thinking that they don't want to be in the federal government anymore. And so we are paying some attention to supporting folks in that way, but I wouldn't call it an initiative.
And I do see a comment within the, sorry, Chris, go ahead. I was just going to respond to something in the chat.
No, go ahead, President Stokes. I was just going to say Olivia asked the question in the chat, but go ahead.
Well, so I think, the question in the chat refers to most of our preparation and reaction has been focused on faculty and staff. But I would say that my communications and our communications with the student support centers, et cetera, are intended to go directly to students. So the messaging that we've been putting out is our continued strong support for our students and our intention, our full intention to keep all the services in place that have served the variety of communities that are here. So specifically the reassurance here to our BIPOC students, our trans students, undocumented students. That is a message, a clear message that we are trying to send directly to students, and then more indirectly through our communications with directors and with faculty, with department chairs, et cetera, So I'm sure there is more that we can do, but we are attempting to send those very clear messages to our students.
And let me add on that I know one area of questions that have come up that we've heard through various dimensions is are we going to continue the special commencement ceremonies, graduation ceremonies that the student support centers do? And the answer is yes. They're more properly called stole ceremonies because they're not a graduation. But only the president can wave her magic wand and make you graduate.
That's the regents.
You do it on behalf of the regents.
I do it on behalf of the regents.
You do it on behalf of the regents. But in any event, we've already talked about that. We're planning to continue those ceremonies and those events. I think that's just reaffirming our support for those student support centers, those affinity centers, and those kinds of celebrations is one of the ways that we are communicating to our students that, yes, you are welcome here. We want this to be a place that you see as inviting, where you see yourself, and you can feel comfortable.
And let me be clear, these services have been they're open to all students. And that, that all are invited to participate in these various convocations, et cetera. So, sorry, Chris, I did it again.
No, it's okay. No. People want to hear from you guys, not me. But I will say, I want to follow up also in response to Livia's question. So the New Mexico Dream Team contacted me because they noticed that the previous page that was online titled Undocumented UNM was taken down. But, I've been, just so you all know, I've been talking to two people in the provost's office about that page, and it was nothing nefarious. It was taken down because it hadn't been updated in many years.
2018.
And so some of the information was incorrect. So I'm still working with two people in the provost office and the New Mexico Dream Team, a representative of the Dream Team, and in order to get some of the information that was on that page to our undocumented and documented students, to make sure that information that they need is still available. And so I can keep people updated on that as we try to progress on that.
Appreciate that work, Chris. That's important. Yeah, it was unfortunate that it was the appearance of executive orders that and other federal actions that threatened some of our students that caused us to realize that page had been unmaintained for so long. So a bit of a black eye for us, but we can try and fix that.
Yes.
Other questions or other feedback?
Thank you.
Lots of thank yous in the chat. And I just want to remind senators that I have the opportunity to meet with President Stokes one-on-one and Provost Holloway one-on-one each month. So, feel free to continue to email me so that I can continue to bring them your concerns, including those that you all, 53 responses to that recent survey. And I've just recently shared those with President Stokes and Provost Holloway and with all of you. So give everybody some time to process.
Thank you. Well, thanks so much for the opportunity to be here.
Thank you for all you're doing.
Thank you, President Stokes, Provost Holloway, for being here and being available for questions. and appreciate all that you and your teams are doing.
Thank you.
Okay. So next on our agenda is the Faculty Senate President's Report. So a number of things. I encourage you to watch President Stokes' State of the University address. Those who have, I've only received positive feedback on that. And as somebody who was there in person, I really appreciated President Stokes' ability to balance recognizing the great work that faculty, staff are doing on campus, students, while also acknowledging the challenges that we're currently facing, and using some of the forbidden words in order to emphasize or to let the UNM community know that we're still committed to diversity and inclusion, inclusive excellence, etc. So I highly recommend it. I think it's worth a watch. Also, you probably saw my forward of the town hall that is coming up that will be facilitated by Ellen Fisher from the Vice President of Research on Central Campus and Dr. Racy on HSC campus. I believe Provost Holloway, you'll be there too, and others, Dr. Mike Richards. So I highly recommend you can attend that town hall via Zoom or face-to-face. I've already mentioned the Know Your Rights the Know Your Rights and Dream Zone trainings. I'll continue to forward those opportunities to you. I wanted to make sure that everyone, maybe Provost Holloway and President Stokes, you too, if your executive assistants haven't already done so. Our March Faculty Senate meeting will be our hybrid meeting where we'll be meeting face-to-face and online. I encourage as many people to attend face-to-face. Obviously, there are some that are challenged by that, coming from branches, for example. But that Faculty Senate meeting, I'm excited that we will be holding it on North Campus. And of course, we'll be sending this information out to you. It will be in the Dominici building on the corner of Tucker and Stanford, if you're not sure where that is, basically across from the law school. Dr. Mike Richards, in addition to President Stokes and Provost Holloway, as always, as their schedule allows, Dr. Mike Richards is also scheduled to attend, and Dr. Ciccarelli, who is, I think, COO. Am I getting that right? And I invited him to come after his report to the Board of Regents at the HSC Board of Regents Committee meeting, so that he can talk to you all about the exciting things happening on North Campus. Also, something that's really cool, I think is really cool, he had given the Board of Regents and President Stokes and Provost Holloway, maybe you were there too, they all got a tour of the new tower on North Campus. And so I asked Dr. Ciccarelli if Faculty Senate could get a tour. And I was surprised when he said yes, and that he could do all of us at the same time, 50 plus people at the same time. He did ask or suggest field trip. I know, right, Dustin? For some of us, others of you, it'll just be, the building next door. He he suggested that we do it in July or August, because if we did it now or during this semester, it would require people to, like wear booties and hard hats and, construction hats and all that stuff. So it'd be hard to provide that kind of material for everyone. So we're looking at July or August for that. Which will be fitting because Roberta Lavin, our president-elect, she'll be, as of July 1st, she'll be our faculty senate president. I also wanted to let you know we are collecting nominations for at-large senators. So please get the word out to your colleagues, to your various departments, and encourage people to nominate themselves, or I encourage you to nominate your colleagues. We're also collecting nominations for the AF&T Committee, Academic Freedom and Tenure, which of course is a very important committee for us. They do a lot of important work, a lot of really great work. And we're also collecting nominations for the Committee on Governance. So be on the lookout for those emails and please forward them to your colleagues. We'll also be sending out soon the survey for committee preferences. So all of you will be able to identify your preference for various committees and faculty more generally. I wanted to mention Provost Holloway mentioned the teams that are working on responding to the 2025 federal actions. Those 5 rapid response teams include research, inclusive excellence, immigration, patient care, and employment. And right now, employment, co-chaired by Senior Vice Provost Barbara Rodriguez and Kevin Stevenson, the Director of HR. They have invited me and Ivan Olay, who is the Staff Council President. We do, I can't remember if it's weekly or bi-weekly meetings. And so to talk about the work that those rapid response teams are doing, and I so appreciated the invitation to be a part of those teams that I met with Dr. Asada Zarai last week, who is co-chairing Inclusive Excellence with Dr. Eric Scott, and Dr. Zarai loved the idea of having a faculty senator also on that team, and we put forward Senator Nair Otaño Gracia's name, which was enthusiastically accepted. So thank you, Nair, for serving on that community. I have reached out to the additional teams, research, patient care, and immigration, about having a faculty senate representation on those response teams, and am awaiting a reply. So I'll update you all on that. I wanted to share with you Dr. Sushila Naughtenbelt, who is currently interim associate dean, I might get her title wrong, for student success in the College of Arts and Sciences. Many of you probably already know her. She's an incredible advocate for student success, an incredible pedagogue. And Dr. Eric Scott from Academic Affairs, with the support of Dean Jennifer Mallett for College of Arts and Sciences, they discussed and have come up with a new initiative called the PACS Got Your Back. And we had our first meeting today. It was a large meeting with lots of people on campus who want to support the initiative. The general idea is we're going to be passing out food, snacks, food goods, like granola bars and fruit, along with basic like little sayings, in order to encourage students, staff, and faculty. And so right now it's in the planning stages. Um, and we'll start to implement it. I think it's, the second week of March. We're shooting for the 10th, 11th, and 12th and trying to do it on various days to respond to various student schedules, faculty schedules. It'll be in different staff schedules, different locations on campus, pending where those different community members tend to circulate. And I'll be reaching out to all of you, any of you who want to participate in passing out food goods and words of support to community members. I'm looking forward to it because it feels like an agentive way, a positive way, an agentive way to help support the community. Also, there is, we'll be sending out, Nancy Middlebrook will be sending out shortly to the FactSend listserv the survey on campus mobility. And this survey, it's an initiative. I'll read what they've written. This initiative aims to enhance campus infrastructure and policies for walkers, cyclists, and micro-mobility users. The survey gathers insights into mobility challenges and opportunities, helping UNM identify key issues, reduce conflicts in shared spaces, and implement safety improvements. I'm really excited about this as somebody who bikes to campus. And I've been in a lot of capital planning meetings where, there's conversation around design and funding requests. And of course, so, nothing's written in stone, but there's a lot of attention being put to a lot of discussion around the Lomas corridor. So, imagining the new School of Medicine on the corner of University and Lomas, right? So how do we make Lomas, let's say from University to Girard, a much more friendly space for cyclists, walkers, micro mobility users, and also help to bring, toward this goal of one university, helping to bring Central Campus and North Campus together in those ways. The drawings, the drafts I've seen, the proposals I've seen, there's a lot of green space, which sounds really nice. And, there's a lot of other things happening on campus, as President Stokes talked about. Also, doing things to help increase UNM presence in the downtown area. The last item on my list is regarding equitable access. So Faculty Senate, you've seen a couple presentations on this. This is regarding the a new billing initiative, where students across Central Campus would pay a flat fee for their books and materials. They'd have a choice of that versus inclusive access, which we already have, where students' books are posted within Canvas. And then, of course, the third option, students find their materials on their own. As I've mentioned in my email to you all, I'm on a steering committee for equitable access, and we're talking about, is this good for our campus? if we implement something like this, what is the most effective way to do so? I wanted to let you know that on March 4th, because people have been asking really great questions, which I really appreciate about this initiative. And on March 4th, we have people coming from CU Boulder, where they have implemented this program, to talk to the steering committee about successes and challenges that they have faced. What I need from this group is I would like a senator to serve on that steering committee with me. Our next meeting is coming up. I didn't write the date. I just wrote next steering committee meeting 9 to 10. But it's coming up next week. So I'll get the date out to you, but I'd really appreciate another senator to attend that meeting, so that, right now the faculty representation is me and Mark Emmons, maybe March 4th. Mark Emmons is representing the library. So it'd be really helpful if we had another discipline represented on that steering committee. And you all had such great questions. So I want to make sure that there's enough faculty perspective on that steering committee. So if you're, please reach out to me and let me know if you're willing to do that. A lot of nice people. Okay, so that is the end of my report. I will ask you all if you have any questions. Okay. Of course, you're always free to email me or text me separately. So moving on to our next agenda item, we have our consent agenda, curricula changes that were sent out and committee appointments that have been made. Those were sent out in the materials. Teresa Sherman.
My apologies. There are no committee.
Oh, okay. Just wasn't deleted. Okay.
Yeah,
I thought
so-
somebody got ahead of us. So just in response to the curricula changes, and we'll put this to a vote. So do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve consent agenda, Justin.
Thank you, Justin. And a second?
Second, Liz.
Thanks, Liz. All those yeah, all those, thank you. Thank you, Nancy. You should see the poll up, yes, no, or abstain. Oh, ignore the January 28th. Pretend it says February 25.
My apologies. I launched the wrong poll. It's my fault. Would you like me
You
to
guys
the correct one?
No, I think we can, right? You guys are okay with this, right? Nancy just got back from her annual holiday for her anniversary, so cut her some slack. She was in Hawaii.
We have a couple people out of the office that are feeling
Well,
as well. So I apologize.
yeah, and that's true.
It
She's
looks
pretty much,
and it looks like
she and
it's
Gina are pretty much, okay. Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead, Nancy.
It looks like it's passed, Chris.
Okay, thank you. Now, next on our agenda item, I'm happy to welcome Dr. Chris Lippett to the meeting from Geography and Environmental Studies to talk about a new graduate certificate program in environmental sensing date. Is that supposed to say data or date model? We're
There's a
about to
couple
find
typos
out.
in there.
Oh, okay.
It's environmental sensing, data, and modeling. Yeah.
Data and modeling. Great. Thank you. Chris, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, so this is a fairly straightforward graduate certificate that is draws on classes from several departments, mainly EPS, Geography and Environmental Studies, and Civil Engineering, to kind of recognize a skill set around handling geospatial environmental data, which is pretty, um, uh, there's a lot of people who have one or two GIS classes, and that forms the basis of their career in the past, but things are getting a little more, competitive. It's still one of the fastest growing fields in the US, but having a credential to be able to say, I'm a biology major, but I have these skills is the goal here. So it's a 4 requirement certificate that has a pretty long list of classes in each requirement to be able to demonstrate some breadth of expertise in managing geospatial environmental data. Hopefully, it aligns well with the launch of ARID and kind of some other strengths here on campus doing exactly that.
Senators, do you have any questions for Chris about the program, about the certificate? Nancy, do we have a poll for the certificate program?
We do. Do you want to do the motion and second first, and I do?
Sure. Yep.
And I'll launch the right one. I promise this time.
No problem. Yeah. So do we have a motion to approve the environmental sensing and data modeling? Did I get it right, Chris?
That's close enough. What's a comma, give or take between friends, right?
Okay.
Roberta Lavin, motion to approve.
Thank you, Roberta. Second?
I'll second. This is Caroline.
Thank you, Caroline. Any discussion?
Sorry.
No.
I launched the poll.
I have one question for Chris.
Yeah, go ahead, Caroline.
Hi, Chris. It's Caroline Scruggs.
Hi.
I'm wondering, does the certificate, is it sort of one option for anyone who wants to do the certificate, or are there kind of different paths or options or anything as far as the coursework goes?
Yeah, so there are, it's 4 areas of competency, each of which have 8 to 10 options to fulfill them. So the 4 areas of competency are spatial data science, remote sensing, spatial data communication, and modeling environments. And the narrowest ones are have only 3 courses under them. And we're working on buttressing that right now as we're hiring faculty right now, but all of those are offered as core consistent offerings. And we'll expand it as the number of courses available expand, but it's just those 4 competencies, 1 course from each competency.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Chris?
The form was in the materials, so there was a question about should we not see this before voting, so sorry.
Oh, okay, thanks. Chris, I want to get this right since it's not in the agenda correctly. Can you tell me? I'm going to put it in the chat. Can you tell me again? Just
Yeah,
for
I'll
my own.
I'll just type it in the chat real quick.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks. Appreciate that. Okay, got it. Nancy, can you go ahead and open the poll back up?
Will do.
Thank you.
I promise I didn't vote.
It looks like we have enough votes, Nancy?
Yes. Looks like we have
Okay.
36-3. 36, no, 36 yeses and 3 abstains. Sorry, no votes. So
Okay, thanks. Yeah, congratulations, Chris. It moves on to the next step.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for being here. Okay, next on our agenda is approval of revisions to the faculty handbook policy C-140 extra compensation. Basically, as you received in your materials and as previously went out for comment, the main change to this policy is in relation to outside employment and conflict of commitment. You know, this policy basically states that faculty can receive extra compensation for those kinds of that kind of work being done. And basically what the revisions to this policy, the revision is around expanding this right to adjunct faculty as well, because currently only full-time faculty are referenced. Nancy, did you have a comment?
after you are done, after you're finished, I just wanted to mention something about the 2 documents that were supposed to be in the zip folder, and they were, but they are now in the faculty senate file if you all need to go see the agendas.
Okay. I also wanted to mention that at the same time we are voting on C-140 and its expansion to apply to adjunct faculty. The faculty union, UA-UNM, is in negotiations with the administration on expanding questions about outside employment and conflict of commitment. So currently we are voting on that revision to include adjunct faculty, and the union is negotiating expanding that policy even further in terms of what is meant by how to define outside employment, conflict of commitment, etc. Do I have a motion to approve the revisions to policy C-140 extra compensation?
I move to approve.
Do we have a second?
I second, Justin.
Any discussion? Nancy, do we have a poll? All those in favor, opposed, abstaining, please submit your response to the poll. Nancy, can you share the results of that poll?
sorry, hit my mute button. Yes, we have 31 yes, 1 no, and 9 abstain. And again, if you apparently there's some problems with the zip file materials, but that policy I've loaded back up in the supporting files area so you could see those if you weren't able to see if you weren't able to unzip those files, and my apologies for that. So
Thank you, Nancy. Okay, so it looks like the policy is approved. And so now adjunct faculty on all campuses, including Albuquerque on both sides of Lomas, are now covered for extra compensation. Next on our agenda item is public comment. And I believe we have one public comment from Dr. Nancy Lopez.
Thank you. So my name is Nancy Lopez. I'm professor in the Department of Sociology and Criminology, and I want to announce our STEM Hub opportunity. It is to create a community of practice with faculty, whether that's lecturers or tenure track faculty that teach in STEM broadly defined. It would be a total of about 40 faculty, including UNM, CNM, and NMSU. I just posted some of the information, including a flyer that has more detail on that opportunity. So I would encourage you to share that with your faculty. We are also next week having an informational pizza lunch in sociology. So we invite you to share that information with them. It'll be on Thursday from 11 to 2, and we have monthly office hours. So join our listserv. Everyone's always welcome to drop in for our virtual office hours. And just a little note, our program officer was terminated due to the executive order. We were assigned a new program officer who's not in the program that we were originally funded. So just an FYI, this is absolutely impacting a lot of the incredible work that was being done in the HSI programs. So these faculty fellows are around intersectionality. Actually, Dr. Claudia Diaz-Fuentes, who's co-PI with me, and I will be giving a keynote at the JEDI conference that's happening this week on Thursday at the engineering school. So there's more information about that I'll put in the chat. So we will present some of our research using intersectionality, looking at race, gender, class for understanding student trajectories in STEM.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Nancy, and thank you for including the information in the chat. Nancy, do we have any additional public comments?
we do not.
Okay. Next on our agenda item is breakout rooms for faculty senators. And I'm furiously, now that I just got access to the breakout room, setting them up. I'm almost done. And these are the same breakout rooms that we have participated in previously. Let me just get this last one in here. And I wanted to leave you time to check in with your group, since this is the first time we've been able to meet this semester in these groups. And I'm actually pleasantly surprised that we have time for this today, because I thought maybe we'd need more time for questions with the provost and the president. But we have the rest of until 5 minutes to the end of our meeting in order to work on this. I'm going to add a breakout room to this in case there are others who want to focus on this. And I know this is sort of a broad theme for a breakout room, but I was going to title one the 2025 executive actions in case people want to talk further about those. You could even, if you wanted to, look for, or excuse me, look through the survey that I sent out to you all so that you could see people's replies, and if there's anything that you think we as faculty senators can do in response or should do in response to make sure is happening in response, that kind of thing. So I'll title that 2025 executive orders. So I have basic needs, safety and parking, that can include capital planning, compensation, pay equity, I'll include benefits in that. Thank you for being patient. Faculty Senate orientation, the Faculty Senate Social Justice Committee, student success, workload policy, and executive orders. Colleagues, are there any breakout rooms that I have missed? Okay, I'm gonna open up those rooms, and please select the one that you would like to, yeah, good question, Natalie. Where's the one where you just go to cry? That's a really good one. It honestly, you know, if you need this time to do that, that's okay too, right? So I encourage that as well. And then I'll check back in with you all. But basically that's our focus. What can Faculty Senate be doing? Or what can we ask others to be doing?
You're muted, Chris.
You'd think I'd have it figured out by now. Thank you. I just want to quickly go, since I know we don't have a lot of time, just quickly, go to each group, and if you could just say one thing that your group has planned or is planning, either in a meeting outside of Faculty Senate or in our next March meeting, what you plan on working on. Compensation, pay, equity, benefits.
Hi, Chris.
Hi, Paula.
How's it going? So our fearless leader had to leave us to do a procedure, so I'm jumping in the background. But so what we discussed was well, two main points I just want to share. One is that we still would like to have representatives from the benefits people at UNM with our administration to come and speak to us, just educate us a little bit more on what faculty benefits are. And then the second thing, we each expressed some frustration over communications with some of those teams that are involved in benefits, and you know, even thought about perhaps a role of the Faculty Senate in benefits policy creation. So we have what I think is a charter for us to approach that next time and then discuss it further.
Okay, cool. And let me know if I can do anything I cannot, for example, I can invite Kevin Stevenson to come to the next Faculty Senate meeting and talk to people. So shoot me an email if that would be helpful. Thank you. Orientation, Olivia.
Yeah, so our group of 5 is going to work on a couple of videos, one to help recruit prospective faculty senators who might not have an idea about how this kind of service can contribute to one's impact to campus. And then also a sense of like what to expect. And then the second short video, these will be no more than 2 minutes, we're thinking, will be targeted at incoming senators so that they have an understanding of, preparations prior to a meeting, what happens and what to expect within a faculty senate meeting, and then after the fact. So we're pretty excited to tackle those in our upcoming breakout sessions and try to get something live before summer.
Thank you, Olivia. Social justice.
Yeah, hi, Chris and everybody. We've been active for a little while now, meeting every second Friday of the month. Some of the plans we have cooking right now include most recently taking a look at this data from the faculty survey and seeing what kind of patterns emerge from it. That's
Awesome.
going to be something happening over the next couple weeks. We're going to be reviewing student policies related to freedom of expression, political expression, protest, and see if we can't make some sense out of that. Because of the way things have shifted in that realm, we want to make sure that we stay ahead of that. Continuing to build relationships with folks, the Diversity Council, other interests on campus in order to build networks that would be amenable to the work we want to do. Lastly, we want to identify precisely what we intend to be. We're still working on that with the goal of formalizing this committee for the long term. So these are things that are on our minds, and we'll be working on those at our next meeting in 2 weeks.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Justin.
Thank you.
Executive orders.
All right. Well, we mostly kvetched, but I think in terms of
That's important.
Kind of action items, one of our concerns is that, even if lawsuits that are stopping various federal, actions are successful, it still seems there's going to be a likely shrinking of funding, especially around people whose research topics are just that contain the words that you're not supposed to say anymore. And so a sort of strategy to support and maintain those faculty whose research area just takes them out of contention for funding right now. I think it's something really important to us. And then, basically, I think we want to hear more from leadership about what the strategy is going to be if things get really, really tight in terms of, are they going to cut departments? Are they going to, and like, what is leadership doing and what can we do to basically secure more support from Santa Fe? So, I mean, we're in a state that could potentially, with its enormous permanent fund, buffer some of this, at least in the, near to intermediate term. So, like, what can we do as faculty to secure the kind of support from the state that might protect us and get us through some tough times?
Yeah. Great question. Great question. Thank you, Natalie. Roberta, did you want to, I think you were in workload. No? Okay. Michael, are you there? I think he might be busy. Okay. Thank you all for hanging on. I owe you 2 minutes. So I will be in touch via FactSend listserv, and I'll see you next month hopefully on HSC campus. Thank you.